Happy New Year.
Okay. That doesn't make any sense, but we're going to go on. Okay. So we're going to go through kind of what we left off with, which was the tail end of the discussion of birds. And so birds had these different kinds of feathers, contour, which were for flight, to get aligned using preening. Then we have down feathers, which are for that's right, and then powder that keeps them dry, and then phyloplume, which would be more like the whiskers of mammals for detection. High caloric foods, fish, nuts, fruits, insects, their beaks are uniquely adapted to whatever their food supply is. That's one of the things that, of course, Darwin recognized with the Galapagos finches. The food gets crushed in the digestive tract. The crop is for kind of holding the food, kind of a holding sack for food. Those of you that have cleaned birds before, you've seen where, you know, if you're cleaning something like a turkey, it might have grasshoppers or bugs in the crop, or maybe you didn't open it up at risk of seeing what was in there. But anyway, or prairie chickens or any of that kind of stuff would have a crop that might be full of insects. Moistens the food. The gizzard, and if you think of the gizzard of the earthworm, when we dissected earthworms, you could tell the difference in the crop and gizzard, because the crop was kind of a thin, flimsy sac, and then the gizzard was really kind of a hard, muscly organ. And I asked you then, I don't remember who said they had. Anybody ever eaten chicken gizzards? A couple of you have eaten chicken gizzards. They're actually a fairly popular food item. Restaurants will have chicken gizzards or whatever, but they are a little bit chewy. They can be, if they're not prepared correctly, they can be a little bit rubbery, but it's a muscly organ. It's a muscly organ for crushing food. Okay, mammals. And this is the other group of endothermic animals. Birds were able to maintain their body heat, their endothermy, using down feathers. Mammals are able to do that by way of body hair. And what did I tell you yesterday? Is it just the hair itself that keeps animals warm? You tell me about that. What does it do, Angel? What does the hair do? It traps. The fur of an animal traps. Ashley? Yeah. Samuel? It traps air. It keeps the warm air. Remember yesterday I likened a bird's down feathers to being like a wetsuit. A wetsuit holds the same warm water against your body. A bird's down feathers holds the same warm air against their body, and a mammal's fur traps and holds warm air against their body. Mammals are named because they have mammary glands, which are modified sweat glands that produce milk. So at lunch today, when you're enjoying a little carton of cow sweat, it's delicious. It's actually not a sweat gland. It's a modified sweat gland. But the idea is that that's probably what it originated as, was something like a sweat gland. And then they have differentiated teeth, or differentiated what we would call dentition. So if we look at the jaws of even like a reptile, it might have a number of teeth. Certain ones do, alligators and crocodiles. There's less difference. For us, for example, we have incisors for cutting, canines for tearing, and molars for crushing. So that's what we mean by differentiated teeth. Well-developed brain with enlarged cerebral hemispheres, and that's the learning part of our brain, right? Our cerebellum, you need to be filling out your notes here, guys. You're not going to know what's going on. and get your notes out. Let me see if I have another copy. There you go. Okay. So infant dependency allows, and this is critical, guys, the more in-depth cognitive ability, that means brain function, is allowed for because they don't have to act on their own immediately. Listen, guys, this is really an important idea. Other animals have to basically be able to function like an adult when they're very young. Mammals have a period of time where they're cared for by their parents, and it allows time for their brain to develop. And that higher level of development allows for more involved behaviors. And then there's also internal development that's going on. We have adaptive radiation. And adaptive radiation means that it's spread out. So adaptive radiation means we started with one kind of organism and it spread out to fill a number of different, what's the word, Jackson? Niches. It spreads out to fill a bunch of different niches. Okay? Okay. And it's thought that the first mammals were probably a shrew-like mammal that became three different groups. There are monotremes, and monotremes are things like duck-billed platypuses. I don't know if there's duck-billed platypi. But, okay. Anyway, the other one that you might want to write in is the other monotreme. Guys, listen carefully because it might be on there. It might be on your graphic organizer, I think. The other monotreme is what's called an echidna, or a spiny anteater. An echidna. ECHIDNA. Echidna, or spiny anteater. Some of you aren't writing that down. You're all going to have to know that. ECHIDNA. Echidna. Or you can just write spiny anteater. DNA. Okay, do that. Okay, now, those are egg-laying mammals. Most mammals, how would we describe them? They have live birth, right? Live birth. But in the case of monotremes, they are oviparous. They lay eggs. But they're still categorized as mammals because they have mammary glands and they have fur. The next group are the marsupial mammals. The marsupial mammals have a pouch that allows for development of the immature fetus that's born from the uterus. So in the case of marsupials, they're born, they're not hatched, they're born, but then they immediately move into the pouch where they're protected. And that would include possums and kangaroos and wombats and koalas. What's unique among that list about possums? Go ahead. They're the only marsupials in the Americas. Okay? Yeah. I don't think there are any in South America other than possums. But yeah. And you might be right. What's that? Yeah, that's right. That's right. You can't tell when it's all over for them. So here are examples of each. So we have marsupial mammals, and then we have monotremes, and then we have a placental mammal, like Rex Burkhead there. Okay. Or any of us, really. Okay. So, Super Bowl champion Rex Burkhead, by the way. Anybody know what that marsupial is on there? And it's not a marsupial, it's a marsupial. I need to correct the spelling there. What is that, Bella? No. I think that's a wombat. Okay. Placental mammals are also called eutherians. That means the fetus develops fully in the uterus. Food and waste are exchanged with the mother by way of a placenta. And those placental mammals, they are divided into 14 different orders. Okay. Now, for that part, guys, I don't go through all of those, but they are in your book, and you're going to have to organize them on your graphic. You're going to have to put them into your graphic organizer. But those are eutherians. Anatomy and physiology of eutherians, or mammals in general. They have breathing muscles that include intercostals. Intercostals means between the... You know what that means? Intercostals. Muscles between your ribs. Okay? Intercostals are between your ribs. And the diaphragm, guys, is a really thin, kind of a membrane type of muscle that pulls down. It acts like the plunger of a syringe. How do you get something to move into a syringe? Anybody? How do you get something to move into a syringe? Go ahead. You pull the plunger, right? That's what your diaphragm does. It pulls down and increases the size of your thoracic cavity, and then air gets pushed in. Four-chambered heart, double loop circulation. Somebody describe those two loops. Bella? Right. Heart, lungs, heart, body. That's exactly right. Okay. Digestion. Digestion is aided by specialized dentition. Dentition is your teeth, the layout of your teeth. We have molars for grinding food. Those are especially important in herbivorous mammals. Incisors and canines, which are critical in carnivorous for tearing away meat. And then we have ruminant. This is not teeth now. Now we're talking about digestive tract. But give us an example of a ruminant mammal. I know an example of a ruminant mammal. You should know one. We all had a close-up experience with a ruminant mammal. Nathan? No. Cows have all those sections of their stomach. They don't really have multiple stomachs, but they have multiple chambers. And why does food need to stay in a cow's stomach so long? What are they able to do that we're not able to do, Jackson? They're able to break down cellulose. So that's what we mean by the digestive tract being well adapted to its food source. Okay, our digestive tract's not able to break down cellulose. A ruminant's digestive tract is able to do that because it's specialized. It's specially adapted for that purpose. Nervous system, highly developed brain with large areas for sight and processing, or processing association, meaning learning. Okay. Mammals, if you think about different kinds of mammals and maybe nature videos that you've watched, when cats, even big cats, tigers and lions and so on, when they're playing, what are they actually doing? Or if you have a house cat, you may have seen it play, but what is that like? It's similar to what? It's learning, but learning to do what? Hunt. When cats play, they'll hide down and crouch down and then pounce on their sibling kitten, right? They're practicing hunting. That's a behavior that, I mean, in domesticated cats, it's not that important. However, if domesticated cats are left to be wild, does anybody know the term for that? Domesticated cats that then become wild, they're called, Sophia? Feral. And feral cats are really quite good at catching birds and things like that, even in the wild, even though there have been generations of domesticated cats that haven't necessarily had to hunt. They've maintained that learning and that ability to hunt. All right, anyway, so that's involved with the good eyesight and learning. Okay, the sense of sight, hearing, and smell are variously adapted for different habitats. Apes, monkeys, and humans are able to see in color. Why do you suppose humans don't? I mean, if we're trying to find something by way of smell, are humans really good at that? What's good at that, Hunter? What's something that's good at finding things based on smell? Dogs are, right? I mean, that's what people use dogs to track game in hunting. People use dogs to track criminals. People use dogs to help find people who are injured, right? All of those things. People use dogs. The law enforcement uses dogs to help find illicit drugs, all of that stuff, right? Because they have a very keen sense of smell. Any theory about why we don't have as keen of sense of smell? Why do you suppose humans don't, Nathan? Right. Eyes and ears became more dominant, and we developed the ability to use tools to get food. And so it wasn't no longer was a survival advantage to have that keen sense of smell. Did you have something to say?
So is that like why people are service dogs? Like they sense like people's signals?
Yeah, some. And you know, some of that's through training, their ability to learn. But the smell part's probably used more for hunting dogs and search and rescue dogs and drug dogs and all that kind of stuff. Reproduction, mostly in mammals, reproduction is viviparous. That is, they give birth to live young. They have a longer gestation time. And the function of a longer gestation time is more time for that offspring to develop. They give birth to fewer offspring. Okay, why do mammals give birth to fewer offspring? Jackson? Because more of them can survive. And why can more of them survive, Samuel? They're larger. That helps. That certainly helps. What else, Jackson? Yeah, they've been given more time to develop. That helps. All of those are, there's probably one thing that's above all of that. Sophia? Parental care. Parental care is probably the biggest thing, right? They're protected. They're fed by their parents. They're protected by their parents until they've fully developed and are more able to survive on their own. Okay. And the less parental care there is, the more offspring they have, right? Things like humans and other primates have very few offspring because there's very extensive parental care. True of things like elephants too, right? Elephants don't have very many offspring because they care for their offspring for years. I don't know what the number is, but several years. Okay. Organs include the gonads, which are ovaries and testes, and structures that transport, develop, and nourish the gametes. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about, in relation to us, the order primates are adapted for an arboreal life. That means life in trees. How can you remember that arboreal life means life in the trees? Sam? Arbor Day. Arbor Day is the time when we should all do what? Plant trees, right? Arbor means trees. An arboretum is, some cities have an arboretum that has a variety of trees. Okay. Have 5 digits on both their hands and feet, opposable thumbs or big toes that are able to bring food to their mouth. They have a shortened snout that allows for stereoscopic vision. Does anyone know what stereoscopic vision means? You can see a lot.
At one point.
Yep, that's right. You're seeing the same image with 2 eyes. Think about how something like a horse is. Its eyes kind of project either way. They aren't really able to put together an entire image. Okay, humans, it allows for better depth perception. Okay, stereoscopic means just like in the lab. One of those microscopes that we used earlier in the year was stereoscopic. That's the one where you're looking at it with both eyes rather than a single eyepiece. And a shortened snout allows for that because if something's got a nose that really protrudes, they can't see the same image with both eyes. But as that got reduced, they're able to see it. Nails replaced claws in primates. Suborders. There are prosimians, which include lemurs that are found only in Madagascar, a little bit smaller brain. They're nocturnal. They have large eyes and a good sense of smell. So that goes back to what Nathan said. I think it was Nathan that said it. The reason that we don't have a great sense of smell is our eyes and ears are keen enough that it allowed us to function well without a great sense of smell. But lemurs that are nocturnal, well, let's look at this. Why does a nocturnal lemur have larger eyes? Go. To get more light into it. You're familiar with that. What happens to our pupils when the light is low? Our pupils get large. What happens to them when it's really bright? They get small. What happens when you come out when you come indoors from a really sunny day in the winter when the ground's all snow covered? You about run into the doorway because you can't see. You've gone from where it's super bright to where there's very little light and you can't hardly see. It takes a few seconds for your eyes to adjust to the dim light. Okay. Anthropoids have diurnal activity. That means they're active during the day. Anthropoids means human-like. Small eyes that see in bright light. 3 parts. A lens that focuses light, cone cells that allow us to see color, and rods that allow us to see black and white. Anthropoids include what are called New World monkeys, tamarins, howler monkeys. They have prehensile tails. Does anyone know what a prehensile tail is? What is I'll give you this clue. A possum also has a prehensile tail. That's right. It's a grasping tail. A grasping tail. And when we go to the zoo next week, you'll see that. Some of the monkeys that you'll see you can see them using their tail to grasp and use it for balance. Old world monkeys like leaf monkeys and baboons. Then we have apes. Long mobile arms. That includes the chimps and gorillas and orangutans, knuckle walkers, okay? And then we have hominids. And what family are we in, for example? Excuse me. Hominidae. So we're hominids and bipedal. Now, can most primates walk on 2 feet, on 2 legs? Most of them can walk on 2 feet, but they don't do it when they're running. All of you have seen the King Kong movies and all that. It really takes off to run, right? They're running on all 4 limbs. So Humans are unique in that when we run our fastest, we run on 2 feet. Go. We'll get to that. Okay, we're just about ready to go to that.
Wait, was that supposed to be done?
Hmm?
Was that supposed to be done?
We're going to fill it out. We're going to finish filling it out. Okay. Humans are most closely related to the African apes, which would be chimps and gorillas. Lemurs, we believe, were the first group to diverge in the primates. African apes were probably the last group to diverge. Okay, I need you to get your study guide out, and we are going to begin our completion of the review materials with the chart of vertebrate characteristics. Okay, so here is that information. Okay, I'm going to make this just a little bit larger maybe. Now, again, I know there are other things that you could argue, well, maybe that could be right, but I guess what I'm going to implore you is learn it this way. I put this because, so we already went through the first 3 columns. So, or the first 3 rows, I should say. So birds, what are bird bodies covered with, Hunter? Feathers. What kind of temperature control do birds have, Samuel? Kind of heart do birds have, Bella? What kind of fertilization do birds have, Ashley? Internal fertilization. What are the structures of respiration for birds? Corby? Lungs and air sacs. Nathan, what's that like? What did we liken a bird's respiratory system to? What instrument? It's a little bit like an organ, like a mechanical organ. Bagpipes, right? We blow air into the bag, and then the bag moves through the bag of air moves through the pipes. That's what happens with a bird's respiratory system. They take air into the air sac, and then it goes from the air sac and goes over the pipes to make the sound. How do birds move, Sophia? Right. So if you think about a birds that don't fly much or don't fly at all have a 2-legged stance. They're bipedal, or else they fly. Okay, unless they're I don't even know what the right word for them. We call them killdeers or what's that? Okay, that pretend to be injured. If you're getting near their nest, they pretend to be injured and they kind of like walk on their wings. But otherwise, for the most part, they're going to be wings and bipedal. And then what kind of an egg do they have, Angel? A hard amniote egg, a hard-shelled amniote egg. Mammal body covering, Sam. Okay. Mammal temperature control, Michelle. No, temperature control. Mammal temperature control. Endothermic, warm-blooded. Mammal hearts, Corby. Mammal fertilization, Nathan. Mammal respiration, Jackson. Mammal locomotion, Hunter. Bipedal or tetrapedal. Which one's probably, if we're only going to put one of those terms, which one would be more appropriate, Samuel? Tetra. We're really the only ones that mostly are on 2 feet. and then live birth. Live birth. Give birth to live young. All right. Now we're ready for the graphic organizer. So if you filled most of this out, you're going to be way ahead of the game. If you're just waiting for me to do it, you're not going to get much out of what we do in the next few minutes, but you can go back and look at it. The critical thing is, guys, you need to practice doing this. Okay? So I may post a blank. In fact, I will post a blank one of these on Google Drive so that you can print it off and practice filling it out. Okay? Because you have to be able, you know how it goes. It's just like the invertebrate one. You got to start from scratch and just fill it out. Okay? It's not like, oh yeah, I know that after you told me. That's not going to be helpful. That's not the one I want. Where the heck is it? I need the blank one. It's not it either. Doggone it. Well, this isn't going to be worth a hang here. Oh, there you are. Okay. So we're going to start. We're going to start up here in the upper left, or just start at the top, I guess. Okay. What are all of these things? What are all of these things? Sophia? Those are all chordates. I can get it to type in there. So this box that I have, I'll just highlight the box and tell you what it is. So the box I have highlighted there is chordates. What would go in this box? It's highlighted now. Bella. Okay. And the one I have highlighted now. Angel? Vertebrates. What are the two? Well, just look in your notes. What was the first group of invertebrate chordates that we talked about? It's very, very beginning of your notes here. Sam? Yeah, but what are they called? What's the scientific name? Urochordata. So Urochordata would go there. What goes there? Sam? You just said it. Huh? No. What goes right below Urochordata? What's the example of Urochordata to Hunter? Okay. So then, Hunter, what goes here? Urochordata and then Cephalochordata. And what's the example of cephalochordates? You have your notes out? Guys, I told you yesterday you needed to work on this because right now what you're learning is sum total of nothing. You needed it. This isn't really very helpful for me just to tell you. I could give you the key and it had done the same thing. Corby, lancelets. Okay, so now we're over to the vertebrates. What's the simplest group of vertebrates? If you don't have your notes out right now, guys, get your notes out. and go through and highlight your notes as we're going. So that's all, because otherwise you don't have any placement for it. It doesn't make any sense. So we're down to subphylum Vertebrata and organization. You should be on the back. You should be on the back of the first page. It says 3 classifications of fish. What's the simplest one, Sam? Huh? Agnatha. So Agnatha is what goes in this box. What are the 2 examples of Agnatha, Angel? So these 2 are hagfish and lamprey. Hagfish and lamprey. What's the next group of fish? Nathan? Chondrichthyes. And what are the examples of chondrichthyes? Sharks and rays. What's the next group of fish? Samuel? Okay. This is osteichthyes. And what are the examples of osteichthyes? Well, what are they, though? You have a couple of examples down there in the box. Okay, so these 2 would be perch and trout. What's the next group, Bella? Amphibia. Amphibia. Okay, and there are 3 orders of amphibians, and what are those? Under amphibia. Should be on the back of the second page of notes. Sophia? That would be apoda. Right here. Apoda. Okay? So in this box, we should say apoda. And then what are the other 2 groups? Nathan? Anura and caudata. And what are the examples of anurans? Corby? So these 2 boxes, or these 2 ovals, are frogs and toads under anura. And what goes under caudata? What goes under caudata, Jackson? Huh? Newts and? Says it right. They're right together in your notes. No. Are you looking at your notes or not? It's right under caudata. It says includes the. You didn't write all your notes? Salamanders and newts. Salamanders and newts. Okay? Guys. Ugh. All right. What goes here? What's the next group? Go ahead, Sophia. Reptilia is correct. And the group that there's only one example of is Bella? Rhynchocephalia. And what is the example of rhynchocephalians? You should be on the back of the third page of notes. Classification, 4 orders. Rhynchocephalia. Hunter, what's an example of a rhynchocephalian? Tuataren. That's right. So this is Rhynchocephalia, tuataren. Okay. What's another group? Now, these other ones could be all switched around. It doesn't matter because they all have 2 examples. Angel. Squamata includes lizards and snakes. What's the next one, Sophia? Crocodilia includes Crocodiles and alligators. What's the next one? Sam. It's number 4 under the orders of reptiles. Are you on the orders of reptiles? Chelonia? Okay, what are the examples? Turtles and tortoises go right here. The next group with the really long leg on it here. Okay, what goes here? Corby? What's the next class? Okay, aves. Aves. And all of these we have 2 examples of. Okay? So the first one is, if we go in order in the notes, Samuel? Passeriformis, which are perching birds. And what would be examples of perching birds, Bella? Mockingbird and cardinal. What's the next example? Sophia? Anseriformis. And what are some examples of anseriforms? Duck and goose. Those are the flat-billed, web-footed ones. Next group. Nathan? Falconiformis. What are a couple of examples of falconiforms? Hawk and eagle. And the last one are the scratching birds. What are the scratching birds? Hunter? Galliforms. And what are 2 examples of scratching birds? What's that? Turkey and what's the other one? Chicken. That's right. Turkey and chicken. Tastes like chicken. Okay. Now, we're on to the next one, which is what goes up here. Go ahead, Sophia. Mammalia. And there are 3 groups of mammals. Okay. One of them is most of them, right? So what goes in here, Bella? Monotremes. And what are the examples of monotremes? Spiny anteater and duck-billed platypus. So this is spiny anteater and duck-billed platypus. What goes there? Sophia? Marsupials. And what are the examples, Jackson, of marsupial mammals? Kangaroos and possums. And what goes in this box? Nathan? Placental mammals. And the placental mammals, guys, we're going to have a number of examples of. I want you to get your book out. I know you're running over. Where are you supposed to be? What is it? Okay. No. Hopefully, Mr. Giebler will understand. And if he doesn't, you can say, well, we didn't fill out any of our graphic organizers, so it took us a lot longer in class, except for like 3 of us. Okay. So you need to open your book to page 657. 657. The last paragraph. Last paragraph. What's the first order it talks about? Corby. For example. Chiroptera, which includes bats. Chiroptera are bats. You might have to fill this out later. Where are you going here? What's another one? Sam? Perissodactyla, which is horses. Next one. Michelle, do you see where they're looking there? What's another order? Whales, which are, that's right, cetacea. So order cetacea, and the example is whales. Another one. Ashley? No, that's a bigger group. You got to get down to where it talks about an example and an order. Rodentia, which includes rodentia. Mice, rodents, right? Rodents. Another one, hunter. Carnivora, which includes dogs. Okay. Then we get into this. And here's how I want you to fill this out. I'm going to tell you this very specifically, and you can go back and watch the video if you have to. So this should say primate. The box I have highlighted right now should say primate. This box should say prosimian. What should go under prosimian? Samuel? No. Lemurs. So that makes this box what? Things more like us? No, before that. Anthropoid. What goes under anthropoid, Jackson? Somebody just said it. Huh? Go. Hominid. This box says hominid. And this last oval, the pinnacle of creation. Sophomore class at St. Patrick's. No, humans in general. Okay, guys, there's also, before I cut you loose, I'm going to show you one more thing. I know you're late. I apologize for that. You should have, but I want to show you, here's a good way to review besides just filling it out. I'll put a blank. I'll put a blank of both of those, guys. I'm going to put a blank of the chart of characteristics and a blank of the graphic organizer. But in Quizlet, why is it making that goofy thing? Okay. Why is it doing this? Hold on. I can show you this, guys. Otherwise, you're missing out on an opportunity to. So, invertebrate classification. That's not it. That's not it at all. Vertebrate. It should be vertebrate classification. There's a whole set of like 90 things, and it'll just help you to understand the. That shows 84. But anyway, it's gonna give you all of the stuff that you're gonna need to study. So it's just another way to study. See ya.